Notice anything different about me? That's right, new shirt. Same shirt, new shirt. You know you want to. This one's always a problem. This is the one. Love it when the engine starts first time. Well, parked the boat over there. I've been in and out of here a few times now. I had a couple of eats here yesterday. There are a snakehead here. I didn't hook any up. I've shortened the legs on the fly. I really wanted to tie another fly. That didn't happen. It's a bit windy. It's a bit difficult to track in here. The boat. Oh, there was one down there. That was actually a really good shot. So I was talking to one of my friends today, and he says sometimes it looks like you're making more than one cast, and it's because what I'm actually doing is I'm repositioning like that, and then the fish rises and I go. Occasionally you can make a false cast. Very rare, I wouldn't count on it. Only if you're in the act of making false casts. I was too slow in both of those. They were fast shots. Like smaller fish, you see. Here he comes. Yep. Oh, you bastard! Another one. Jesus. Come out. The left-handed net. Here he comes. The left-handed drop net. Oh, hang on, let me show you this net. You'll love this. This is high quality engineering, you see. It's for left-handed people. Left-handed netting people. Here it comes, coming to the left-handed net. You see me just swim straight into it. It's amazing. Hello fish. Put right on the edge there, so I can just make sure I don't get bitten. Yep, there we go. Nice photo. Oh, hang on. Just wet my hands. Sorry, mate. There we go. A fish. Well, that was a rather interesting moment. The fish I was fishing for off, and his friend came up and ate. That was nice. There's a few things I need to talk about. One was the spine of the rod. I have to do a separate one on that because I haven't cut up the pieces of paper. Although I can kind of describe it and then show you the paper later. There we go. Spine of the rod. It's how I think a lot of rod builders maybe still think, they certainly used to in the past, where if you know how rod is made, carbon rod is made, it's made because you get pre-peg, which is a carbon cloth, and it's cut as a shape, normally some sort of rectangle, four-sided shape, but like like this. Imagine that. Okay, I'll draw that on afterwards. And then it's got around a mandrel, sloping mandrel, and then it's rolled. And so there's a layer of overlap. And that overlap is said to be the spine of the rod. Now, that's not quite how rods are made, incidentally, anymore. Some rods may still be made that way, but I know of our rods, we use 4, sometimes even 5 different layers of pre-peg with different qualities. Particularly, you get a long fibre one and 2 short fibre ones, right? And they can be offset, so you don't just get one spine up the rod, you get one layer of overlap, you might get several. Interesting thing about the overlap as well, generally speaking, it doesn't go straight up the rod, it usually curves up the rod. So I think most rod designers now try to get rid of it. It's not something you want. You don't want a spine in the rod. So anyway, let's talk about how it's thought of as used, because you have different ideas on this on rod builders. So to locate the spine, there's a couple of ways of doing it if there's a pronounced spine. And one is you can place the blank on the edge of a table and you can just roll it and you can feel it. The other is you can push straight down on it or bend out. But what you're detecting there, especially if it's the one that's bent out, is you're not detecting the spine, you're detecting the plane of bending, which is probably perpendicular, I would think, to the spine. And then you have different ideas. Rod builders have different ideas about what to do with this. Some try to put the rings on the spine, some trying to put it on the plane of bending. Jim Murphy, many years ago, it must be 30 years ago, when he was working with Reddington, he told me they'd had a reverse spine matrix where they put the spine on one side and then the other, on the bottom half, and on the top half they put it on the other. Whether he made that up, I don't know. I think he did make a few things up, to be honest. Point is, nobody really knows what to do about it. It's probably going to bend for the plane of bending anyway, and then it makes no. Then what you do, you put rings on it, and it changes it again. So you can't hold a rod in your hand and tell if it's spine or not until you take the rings off. So the major companies I know, like Sage and so on, I'm pretty sure they try not to have a spine in the first place, or at least a noticeable one. And what they do when they build a rod, they don't work out where the spine is, they work out where it bends. They've got some natural curvature on the blank, and they put the rings on a certain way so that it looks straight. Because I can tell you, nobody picks up a rod and takes all the rings off to work out if it's spined, but everybody looks down the rod to see if it's straight. So that's what they do. So then the question is, does it matter? Well, you've got to hope it doesn't matter, because most people and many people always cast with the loop off plane to the rod. So if you think about that, the rod is bending in 3 dimensions. And so if there was a spine, that would be a problem. Anyway, so it's one of these things. It doesn't really matter. And I think that came up because I talked about twisting these rings, as you can see, off at a different angle, which I always do. I'll see if I can get some more details. I was talking to our engineer in the factory about it, to Alejandro about it, and he actually took out a rod which didn't have a layer of overlap. I can't remember which rod it was. It was some sort of rod, an old rod that had been put together, and it still had it actually had a noticeable spine. His view on it was the plane of bend, the curvature with our rods anyway should be the plane of bending, as much as that matters. But really, we try to get rid of it. Everybody tries to get rid of it. It's not something you want. So that was the first thing I had to talk about. Second thing I had to talk about is sometimes it came up. Sometimes what we say in coaching or in teaching isn't the real truth. It's not the whole truth. It's part of the truth. And the way I think about this things like straight line path or even plane of the rod, you know, when we talk about these things, they're not actually to be taken at 100% truth in reality, because the fact is they're not. They're just for getting understandings that you need, that the line follows the tip of the rod, and or bits of it going away. Oh shit! Oh, bugger. Oh man, that was a good fish, and he followed the nail knot. Damn! Excuse me. Oh, that's a really good fish. Beautiful colours. And he followed the nail knot because that goes too far. So, what I was talking about, I believe that. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah, things aren't taken too literally. Oh, I need a drink now. Straight line path being one of them. Cast, because we do that for the variable casting arc. Even though the line doesn't follow the tip of the rod, it follows itself, right? As you get further away. Point about that was, how I look upon it is I look upon these ideas that we're teaching as being like a filter that you place between you and the reality of what's going on. It's like those Matchstickmen drawings that you get if you ever did engineering at school or in physics or engineering at university or whatever. There was all these drawings. As a kid, I grew up in the morning. You would wake up at like 4 o'clock in the morning because you're a kid, and you turn on the TV. And in England, we had these open university things where there was like men in white coats with long hair back then, like this, and beards, and they would have like beakers and stuff like that, and these would be the similar sort of drawings. So that sort of was imprinted into my mind, and consequently, you know, it's not to be, just take it loosely. Imagine sometimes what we're saying, and I'll try to get it a bit more accurate. A lot of the times what we're saying really is just about, you know, getting concepts abroad ahead. Some people get really caught up in the reality of what's being said, and believe me, it's very complicated. We don't fully understand fly casting, and so we don't fully understand anything, I don't think. And so we understand it as much as we need to know, and we've researched the rest, but you can still do it. It's not magic, right? So that was the second thing. And the third thing I have to talk about is that big fish that I missed, is looking after your rod. Now I know that you've probably like, Paul, what are you talking about? Your rods live outdoors. How can you even be the person to look after them? Well, there's two things I want you to think about. One is, from time to time, especially if you've been doing, and I don't care if it's another person's rod, but if it's a sexy rod, what you think about it, is, and you should probably think about it in a way, is every once in a while you need to check these ferrules are together. You get a lot of breakages when they slip. And if you're doing a lot of spay casting, then you go to distance, always check it. Always check the rods. Just from time to time, you know, just run up here and have a bit of a look, make sure the sections are, if they come loose and that slips a little bit and you're casting, bang. And the other one is, if you've got your nail knot in here and you're starting out, don't try and pull the line from this angle, hoping it gets out through the rings, because chances are you'll have this bend in the rod like this, it will get stuck, and that's a huge amount of pressure on that angle on the tip, and that's another main cause. So if you're a beginner or even an experienced angler and didn't know that, whenever you're taking line out, put the rod down and pull it out from the end, or use water surface tension to pull it out, but don't try and pulling it from here, big bend in the rod. It's like if you hook a snag, don't try and breaking it off like that. Puts huge pressure on the tip, and that's the end of your rod tip. God, that was a nice fish. 4 kilos. A bit of a smoochy around, I think. Got about 20 minutes. Do 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 do. Got a fish. It's never, you know, you get a fish and that's it. So you get a fish and then you lose. You miss a big one, you know. What the fuck? You can't just get the big one and be happy. I'd have been a tussle, that big one. I've got to dial up my shots a bit more.